Hello and welcome to the first video with the ugly Jeep. We'll get to what we're focusing on today, which is just replacing some of these battery terminals and trying to clean that whole area up. Hopefully make it more reliable as far as the electrical side. All right, so this is what we're going to be focusing on right here today are these battery terminals. This Jeep had these kind of weird dual inlet into the original stuff. And you can see here it's been chewed away pretty good with jumper cables and whatnot. And then the previous owner did some wonderful wiring like this, and somehow that still sort of functioned, but we're going to clean those all up. And these big cables here are for the winch. Hopefully get all this installed nicely, and with it going nice clean fittings on stuff like that, each component should have steady power to it. This is the style of clamp that I'm going to be replacing it with. This is supposed to just be a quick spool clamp down on it, so I'll be able to easily disconnect it when I'm done using the Jeep. And these two up here are for accessory inputs, and then this one should hopefully open enough that both of those old cables, the factory ones, will still fit in here. If not, I can fit one of the eye-hook type style on here and just clamp it down with those. And unlike some of these other ones that you've seen advertised different places, I just saw one listed for $130. These are just Walmart ones. Picked them up the other day there. I think they were $10. All right, my first deal here is just going to be to strip some of the stuff like that, the ones that I was saying was really poorly put together here. We're going to take what we can off of it. Found the right size here. This one's an 11. They're usually between a 10, or sorry, between an 8 and a 13. If you've never worked on one before, that'll give you at least a starting point. All right, let's skip forward to where I've got that apart. This is going to take a second. This is all tangled up in here. All right, so we got that bolt off of there, and we're able to get, we've got 3 of them all squished together here. And the first one that we pulled off, took our big cable for our winch off, just have it kind of dangling out here. It actually looks like this is just going to fall off of it. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time here trying to work this free. That way I don't have to cut these big cables. And we'll see if that works or not. All right, I believe those are soldered in. And I've only got one pair of wire cutters here today, and they're not my good ones. So I'm going to see if I can cut through these right up close here. All right, so hold piece off. Now I'm messing with these, and I've got these couple of loose small ones, which I already lost one here. Let's grab it. I'm going to tape these all together just so I don't lose track of them. So I do not want to accidentally grab a ground wire and stick it on the hot. So there, now these are all that way. I can focus on my 2 big ones here. All right, for these bigger cables, one of the best ways to strip these, because your typical pair of wire strippers doesn't go big enough for them. So most will use a razor blade, and you just gently and carefully cut a little circle around it and either peel it off or pop it off. I need to give myself a little bit more wire. I'm going to attempt to always keep the sharp end away from your fingers if you can. When you're cutting wire, you don't always have that option. Might have to give myself a little bit more, but I'm going to get this one cut the same way right now, and then we'll look at them. All right, so you can see here, our wire is still okay. This one's starting to corrode a little bit down in there. Not bad though. We still actually have it. Looks like copper. Sometimes these will get really bad, totally green, have a lot of powder inside of them. And then when that happens, you have to keep cutting back further or eventually get a whole new cable. This one's in even better shape. Okay, now we're ready to see if that'll fit on our new clampy deal. So I'm going to take these and kind of squish the wires together and twist a little bit. On ones this big, you can't really twist them a lot. That just helps them kind of bind together tight. And then because this free moves back and forth, we're going to flip it upside down. And just kind of weave our cables in. Now I have just the copper part pinched in there. I'm going to use the little tool that this came with and start clamping it down. Doing this, I'm not going to go Herculean tight on it. I'm just going to go snug. Because at some point we might end up taking them back off if we've screwed something up in the process here. But right now, that looks like it's going to go pretty good. These aren't just falling out, so we got it snugged up enough. And now we can go ahead and focus on pinching these bad boys on there and making it pretty. So we cleaned up a little bit already and found a whole ball of wiring here that went to nowhere. This was stuffed down in there somewhere. It was a little clip at one point, and this one that was still connected to the battery was just balled up and stuffed down into the fender well there. So we can remove all of that because this, again, it didn't run anywhere. They were completely loose on the other ends. So if that run, or if you run into something like that, you can just pull this off to the side and get rid of it, or keep the wire somewhere. I might need another little piece about that big. Also discovered a whole lot of slack wire, which I like to leave a little bit of slack, but I mean, what is this, like 3 feet of slack? That's a smidge on the excessive side. So we're going to cut that down. All right, so I've got the really long one trimmed back here a little bit, and I've got redid that, so stripped. Boy, having a hard time with words right now. So we got it restripped. Just do a couple little twists here. See how that tightens all those wires up. We've done that with this one. And we've got this little short one over here that we also need to twist here a little bit. I'm going to pinch all 3 of these together and twist them together. Got a piece of heat shrink. Slide that back on here. Twist them back together again. And then we've got one of these that I tested to make sure that hole works for the holes that we've got here. So now, kind of twist this in there with our stuff. And there, it's ready to get crimped on. Squish it down pretty good. And I always grab an end and grab the wires there and give them a little tug apart and see if it comes. That sounds dirty. All right, so now we've got 3 of them all linked into one nice little eye hook. And we've got one left. We're going to clean up here and put on a smaller one of these. I did that because this is a bigger cable and I didn't want to try to squeeze 4, all 4 of those equal one large. So this way I've got a separate one. Makes it a little bit easier. All right, as far as hooking these to this piece, it's as simple as taking your little screw out, put it in there, and get it to your hole. Now if this is sitting on the battery, then you can kind of tuck and zip tie some of this stuff. You can see that's cleaned up drastically. So we just about got her finished up here. These 2 big cables that you're seeing are for the winch, and I had to modify these slightly. I used a step-up drill bit and drilled into it here just enough to get to the 3/8. That way our bolts here will actually go through it. That was just a tiny shave off of it, but that was tight enough these wouldn't go through. Because we're using a dual post battery now, so it changed up things a little bit. All right, we'll run through the little test here and make sure everything works now that it's all hooked up and finished. Double check and make sure I didn't leave anything up here in the belt assembly. And we're clear there. Let's see if she do the test for the light bar. Oh yeah. And then I've got 2 different fan switches, so hopefully you can hear them. That one's kicked on. And that one works. Coughing and spitting there a little bit, but I believe that's a different issue. And then our last thing here is our winch. And I already stretched it out to make sure it worked, so just pull it back in and for you to see it. There it is. All right, here's our close-up of the cleaned up battery terminals. On this side, we were able to do 2 right into that one post there. Our stuff back here looks good and clean. This side, I messed up and ran this line on the wrong side. So at some point, I can take this back apart and run it underneath here, and that would clean it up even more. But now, we can just do that, and should have no power to anything now, other than the winch, which, because this is a dual post, here's our ground for it. That's it for this video. Hope that helps you come up with your own idea for cleaning up some of them if yours is a scattered up mess. I love the fact that I can add to it. So I'm hoping to get at least another 1 or 2 light bars for it, because this is currently the only light on the entire thing that works. So it would be nice to have that if I get stuck out in the dark somewhere. And now it's easy to add to them. But that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy, and we'll see you next time.